Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Detroit Sports Sit Down. My name is Tom Murphy Jr. I'm here with Dan Murphy and Joe Perry. It's getting a little colder. There's a little chill in the air on these Michigan nights. It's Thursday, September 7th. It feels like fall is here, but you know what that means? That means football is here, and it feels good in Michigan. The Michigan Wolverines came on strong. They were ready. They were ready for the showdown in Dallas. Obviously, Florida had a lot of guys suspended. It looked like they weren't totally prepared. Michigan maybe was. There's a lot of things we're going to get into about that game. And guys, there's a lot to talk about. There is with this game. It was one of the most anticipated games of the weekend, I think, and Michigan comes out with a 33-17 victory. There's a lot of questions going into that game, and I think there's a lot of questions still after that game. But a few things were solved. One of them is this defense as good as last year? Is it as good as advertised? Are the young guys going to be able to step up? And Dan, I'll start with you. Do you think the defense answered some of those questions, or do you think what we saw was an act of a team in Florida that was highly rated, but really dealt with all those suspensions, especially with their two top players on offense? Is this Michigan defense for real, or is what we saw kind of a smoke screen?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think Florida losing their top receiver, top running back, that really hurt them quite a bit. But more than anything, it was Michigan's speed. I mean, they looked even faster, if that's even possible, faster than last year.
That's what Don Brown said, defensive coordinator for Michigan. He said, look, we're young and talented, and he said, I think his quote was, I don't remember exactly, but it was like paraphrasing. He's like, "We're young and we're talented, and I'd rather be that than the opposite." You know?
Well, yeah, of
old
course.
And not talented, you know?
Old and slow.
Yeah, old and slow. But they are, and I think they proved that last year's defense. You know, pretty much the number one defense all season last year, and that's what they showed, is that they may be young, but they're smart and they're fast, and they get after that ball, don't they?
Yeah, I really liked 10, Devin Bush. I thought he was really fast out there, middle linebacker, flying around the ball. And I was really impressed with him. There's nothing better than to have a middle linebacker.
3 tackles for loss, man.
I'm pretty sure he had a couple sacks.
Yeah, 2 sacks. Yep. The interesting thing about Devin Bush, though, man, he almost got thrown out of the game first play.
Yeah.
With that targeting call, and I thought he was going to get thrown out for sure. And I'm interested to get your guys' take, you know, when it comes to targeting with that rule. I always felt like it should be more helmet to helmet. In terms of, like, if you're leading with your helmet, that to me that's true targeting. You're either going to hurt the other player or you're going to hurt yourself.
If you're
hitting with your shoulder, that's how you kind of taught to tackle. I mean, just lead with shoulder, and to me that's what he was doing, and that's why I see a lot of these guys getting thrown out of games, and they're just making kind of routine tackles. They look vicious, and they are kind of vicious looking, but they're routine tackles.
And when you're coming in and you're lining a guy up, you're not expecting. A lot of these guys are starting to duck. You know, they're starting to duck into getting these hits because they know they'll get that penalty. They're risking their own health. Now, I read an interesting bit today about something that Larry Fitzgerald said. Obviously, this is in college, but it pertains to just football across the board. Is that Larry Fitzgerald has spoke out and said, look, all you defensive guys out there, aim for my head and I'll help pay your fine, because I would much rather have that than you go at my knees, low. Mm-hmm. Because and you think about that, so there's only so much space between your knees and your head, and when things are going that fast and guys are ducking trying to duck and spin, duck and cover, there's only so much you can do. I respect the way the game of football is going, because there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of exposure now on CTE and going after the head, but there's only so much you can do when you're flying at a guy and you're just trying to make a tackle. And if you're head up, shoulder down, going at a guy's midsection, and he ducks and you just happen to catch his head, I think that's ridiculous for targeting, because you can see the difference. You know, you can see when a guy is going head first at another guy's head.
Trying to hurt him. And the rule was if you stepped into the white line, then you're considered out of bounds, and if you hit the head, then that's targeting. But he had like 1 foot out, and he came across the field. So it's not like he actually tried to completely hit him in the head. He did duck down a little bit and use some shoulder. I thought it was really stupid. Even one of their players, I can't remember, had the same issue with targeting. Remember, they looked at that as well. Yeah. And I thought it was the same thing as Devin Bush's, where it was he just kind of ducked and didn't try to take his head off.
What I don't like is the ferociousness of the targeting penalty. I think there should be a lot more leeway as far as like ejecting a guy out of the game.
Do you think maybe a warning first, or maybe just a quarter getting taken out? I mean, if he
I think it should be like there should be a decision ruled whether if it's blatant targeting, then you're ejected from the game. But it has to be blatant. And I think there's too much of a gray area, and these refs are scared now, and maybe the NCAA is scared now. They're trying to crack down so much that...
Yeah, they are trying to crack down so much.
That it's becoming, too much.
You're right.
Now you're affecting the game.
Well, you want to get the Vontaze perfect.
I was just going to bring him...
Where he's trying to hurt people.
Yeah, this guy's doing it in preseason, man, trying to take out dudes in He's suspended for game... Like he's suspended for what I think he got it appealed down or something, but he's already suspended out for like the first 3 to 5 games, like whatever it is. There's appeals going on, or there's an appeal. But in the preseason, this guy's trying to take people out. Mm-hmm. Guys like that, that's why the rule has to be there, and it has to be swift, it has to be sharp, and they like. If you see it, if you're just watching the game on TV, you see that guy was obviously going for the head. Like you could just tell, or you could tell he was just trying to make a play. It's a pretty easy thing to decipher for the most part.
I'm just worried that this targeting rule is going to become like what is a catch? I don't want it to turn into that. Now we're talking about what is a legal tackle.
Yeah.
It's just I don't want it to get into that, and that's what I feel like it's starting to become. You know, where you really see in the NFL, I think a little bit more in college, is what is a catch, what isn't. And I think college's version of that is what is a legal tackle, what isn't, what is targeting, what isn't.
Yeah.
And I was really worried. Like to me, I thought it was a perfectly fine tackle. But in terms of the targeting, it looked so vicious. I was worried that he was going to get thrown out of the game.
And that's the thing with the game of football. It continues to evolve. Man, the athletes they're getting faster, stronger, bigger. The hits are going to be more vicious. You know, so it's a hard thing to deal with because we love this game of football, and I don't want to see it become patty cake, you know?
Yeah.
Like, let's just take the pads off and put flags on, you know, if we're going to just pretty much take out tackling. And you can't just keep... Because the quarterbacks and the safeties, their job is already hard enough, man, because people don't even know what the hell pass interference is anymore, let alone what's a catch, what is pass interference anymore today. So these guys already have a hard enough job. And now they got to specifically tackle a minute area of the body. You gotta draw the line somewhere. This is still football. You leave the pads on or take them off. But
thankfully he didn't get thrown out. It was the first. Everybody was so hyped up. It was the first play of the game, and all of a sudden, they took a long ass time to decide. Yeah. And it was like a 2-3 minute discussion. All of a sudden, it was like, what a buzzkill, you know, for this game. You know, everybody's all jacked up, and then we're waiting for this review for 2-3 minutes.
Tom said it was easy though for the players or whatever. It's really hard for the refs because it is at full speed, and they don't have a great view like we do. So that it does make sense to take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm okay with taking a look at it when it's enough. But go ahead.
It should have been.
I'm with
it should have been a lot quicker. It should have been 10, 20 seconds, see it once and go through.
Yeah, it did take forever. But, it's at game speed, and you don't get the best view as a referee. Yeah. So it is hard for them. They just see that head, they see a foot out of bounds, and they're like, well, that's a penalty, so let's look at it. But like you said, it should have been a little quicker going through it. But it's a tough job to be a ref, too, when those guys are running that quick.
Oh, I agree with you on that, yeah. Especially with this rule, man. It's kind of tough to decipher exactly what is targeting and what isn't.
It's like you go back to, was it last year's game? It was the bowl game, right? Where the middle linebacker got.
No, I think the one you're thinking about is 2 years ago against Michigan State.
It was like right off the bat. He got like just right off the bat, and he pretty much dove for a tackle, and it just and they reviewed it forever, and they decided it was targeting, and I just, oh man, like it does it bothers me to get these kids thrown out of games when they're making regular plays. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I don't want to see with this targeting. But you gotta protect the head, and there's a whole resistance against football in just society, like football as a whole, and so the officials and all the company men from Pee Wee football on up, all the way up to the NFL, have to figure a way out to keep this game alive. Like, there's people out there predicting that football will not even exist in 15 to 20 years because of the lawsuits and all this stuff. I don't believe that. I think football is too big for that. But more and more mothers are keeping their 8, 9, 10-year-old kids out of football because of what's transpiring as the kids get older. And if football's not starting at 8, 9, 10 years old, if you cut the youth out, where's it going to be in 10, 15, 20 years? Mm-hmm. So not only do they got to think of a game-by-game, play-by-play situation, you got to think about the future of the sport. And I think there's ways to fix it. Like bigger, thicker helmets, maybe like.
I think it'll just hurt the game. I don't think it'll completely take it away. I think it might just hurt the game. It won't be as much talent, which could affect, fanship and watching the game. I don't think it'll go away, but like you said, a lot of kids might not play. They might play soccer or something like that. But I don't think it'll ever just go away. I think it'll just hurt the game maybe, and it won't be as popular. It'll be a little less desirable to watch. But I don't think it'll completely go away.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't mean to take the train that far off the tracks. I just thought it was it. Now that we're back into college football, that popped up, and I just found it pretty interesting. Especially the first play in Michigan, it popped right up. So
yeah, actually first play. So yeah, might as well take it.
Millions of people watching, man. It's a storyline that's so huge.
Yeah,
but with that said, we are gonna talk about this game. We're gonna break it down because it was for Michigan fans. It was a fun game to watch. The first half, maybe not so much. With our quarterback, things got a little shaky there, but
up and down, which is good.
We've had a few days to reflect on the whole game, and it was a good day to be a Michigan Wolverine. We're gonna go ahead and listen to some of these highlights. Michigan victory over the Florida Gators.
Frank, Michigan, ready to contend again. And through all the years of these two classic power programs, this is only the fourth time that they've met. And he right now, going nowhere, Maurice Hurst. 3rd and 8. Spain trying to extend the play. Now tucking, running, diving. Keep it on the ground and 3rd and 13 and come up with it. How about Ty Isaac? So Nordine comes in for his first field goal attempt of his career and makes it. 3rd and 8. Franks in trouble and taken down by Devin Bush and company. Evans. Well blocked. Good cut. Burst of speed. Chris Evans. Big gainer for the Wolverines. Spain is going to have plenty of time to set up here and go downfield. Tariq Black waiting. Touchdown for the Super Frosh. to pass. Tariq Black again. Could be a fake, but he's going to kick away. It's accurate. Is it long enough? Wow! 13 downfield he goes. And batted away at the last moment by Brandon Watson. 2nd and 10. Play action. Spade. As he finds the tight end dragging in McKeon. Tight formation here on 3rd and 2. They're going to pass out of it. And right there. The knee is down before the ball reaches out. 4th down run, meanwhile, busted loose by Ty Isaac. 2nd and 10. Spade. What a nice effort by Grant Perry. 2nd and goal. Touchdown, Michigan. Here's Cleveland on the return. And Michigan is swarming. Ball is out. Ball is loose. And Michigan comes out of the pile with it. It's back out there from 50. And that was pure. 3rd and 6. Zaire being chased and brought down. Here's Zaire, and he is sacked again. He's having some struggles. Hurst is chasing him. Throws it up for grabs, tips, and falls incomplete. Fresh new talent on the field. Look at this. How about a sack? Fumble, score. Winovich with the play. Burbush with the touchdown. 433 total yards of offense. Holding Florida to under 200 yards of total offense.
So there you have it. As you could tell from the cut-up highlights, I mean, it was a dominating day for Michigan, especially on defense. It was not a dominating day for Wilton Speight, though. First half, 2 back-to-back pick sixes. This dude was rattled, and he didn't look good. He didn't look like a superstar quarterback. And you got Jim Harbaugh, the quarterback whisperer, and all that. At what point do you start questioning Harbaugh's ability to get Speight to the next level, or start questioning his judgment of who should be the starting quarterback of this team? When you have so many different options and so much time to figure out who's supposed to be the guy. And Wilton Speight, in the first half, he did not look up to the challenge. He did not look like a guy who could lead a team to a national championship. He had some nice throws for sure. He corrected some mistakes. Things didn't look nearly as bad in the second half, but back-to-back pick sixes, you can't do that on the road at Penn State. You can't do that at home against Ohio State. He's going to have a couple weeks to figure it out, but if he doesn't progress pretty swiftly, and these are the kind of things that we saw at the end of last year, and now we saw it in the first half of the first game this year. And this was another big game. So does he just not? Because I don't want to see him go out and blow out Cincinnati, then blow out Air Force, and then things looking great, and then all of a sudden the freight train starts rolling in when you start playing the more heavy hitters on the schedule, which are further down the line. Is Wilton Speight just not a big game quarterback?
I think it's the first game, so you got to cut him a little bit of slack with a good defense. I think he will improve, and like you said, he did get better the second half. He made some changes, so that's good quality that you're learning from your mistakes. He was, just throwing a little too high and hard, which you're not supposed to. Just a little bit.
I know.
You are right. It's some of the mistakes he made last year, which he needs to correct. But, I think overall he played decent. But, yeah, to win, to be a national champion, you got to play a lot better than that.
And it worries me that, O'Korn stepped in and he didn't, was that just for Speight to just kind of take a moment, collect himself? Or did O'Korn just look like he wasn't ready to take over either? And so and where is Brandon Peters? Just non-existent. Is he fallen so far off the charts that that he doesn't get a chance in that game at all?
Well, with John O'Korn, they apparently had talked about getting him in the game at least for a few series within the game, regardless of situation. But as it turned out, when Spate threw 2 pick sixes, they put O'Korn in. You're thinking, well, maybe this is a legit, true quarterback change. And then that was O'Korn's opportunity. He could have really took the bull by the horns, and if he could have led them to a touchdown drive or two, maybe you're talking that O'Korn takes over the quarterback spot. But he didn't. He didn't take advantage of that opportunity, and the offense continued to sputter. And then Spate came back in, and he settled down a little bit. He started hitting some big throws.
And he did. He showed his arm.
He's got an arm for sure.
Even with that first touchdown to Tariq Black, I mean, that was beautiful. He was wide open. Just some broken coverage by Florida, but man, he launched that ball. He put it right out. But there's so many for the beautiful balls that he did throw. There were 2 or 3 bad decisions,
well, not even, I don't know necessarily bad decisions, but just overthrows.
Oh yeah, overthrows.
Throws where he had guys open on the sideline and he didn't give them an opportunity to make a catch.
Got scared, got scared and just chucked it out of bounds without trying to make the throw.
I think the thing was, I made the excuses last year that the collarbone injury was the problem. That's why he was inaccurate against the big teams. The Ohio States, against Iowa, against Florida State. But you're seeing now that maybe it's just truly he's just not a very accurate quarterback. And it's obviously he was 100% healthy. He was ready to go a full camp, and you're still seeing these overthrows, these pick sixes, the same pick sixes that cost them the Ohio State game. It could have cost them this game if Florida had any semblance of an offense. And like you said, Tom, if they go into Wisconsin, they go into Penn State, they play Ohio State home, and Spate's still playing like this, they don't beat those teams.
Not even just playing you can't have mistakes in it. One, maybe. Especially if this defense is as good as it looked. I mean, some of these stats, man, this defense, they can carry you, and that's the thing that scares me. This defense will carry them to 7-0, 8-0 now, and we're running into the same thing that we ran into last year when things really start to get heavy. It's gonna be these games are gonna come down to who's making less mistakes, and you're only afforded 1 or 2 mistakes, And Wilton Spate,
You need him to be more like a Brian Greasy, where he kind of controls the game, doesn't make any mistakes, and can hit a big play here and there when you need to, just enough.
Yeah,
but he doesn't make the big mistake. Lead you and let the defense down.
Now the difference with Brian Greasy, he obviously had the 97 defense, and then those guys were juniors and seniors and leaders and just. Obviously, you had the Heisman Trophy winner in Woodson and so many guys that were just unbelievable. I don't know if this defense, being as young as they are, can do that week in and week out and cover this guy's mistakes or his inability to take over a game. Because you might see some games where Penn State, Wisconsin. What if Wisconsin is just controlling the ball and just running up and down the throat, and they get out to a 14-0 lead, and Wilton Spate isn't the guy that can take over a game, and now so if there's a day where the defense is struggling, we don't have the guy that can overcome that. We only have the guy that can only maintain, and the defense has to be the star of the show. That worries me. Very, very much so, especially in Harbaugh's 3rd year. Harbaugh, in his 3rd year, he should have a quarterback that is prime and ready to go. And I didn't see it on Saturday. I really didn't.
That's the thing that's concerning too. Is I kind of thought the quarterback battle was all kind of in quotes. It was kind of a smokescreen. But maybe it was more of a battle than we even thought. And
you know what they say: if you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback.
That's right. I never like when they're saying, "Yeah, we're going to get the second quarterback some opportunities within the game," because that tells you don't have a dominating quarterback.
Well, I get that in the first. If you're playing Akron, if you're playing like this game against Cincinnati, who obviously struggled last Saturday. Michigan, I think the line's like 33, something like that. In these games, I would expect to see all 3 quarterbacks play this week, because you could treat this one now as a quote unquote preseason game, as far as college football goes. You better make sure you don't fall behind quickly or nothing like that, nothing stupid. Make sure your defense is playing well. You get that 14-0, 21-0 in the first quarter, going to halftime up 21 points, and then you can get your other guys some game time, because Wilton Speight, maybe he was the number 1 quarterback, but he might get hurt. So it's always good to have your other guys get some of that game experience. But I don't want the quarterback battle to be going into week 4 or week 5.
Well, you don't want it really even going into game 1 when we're going against Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to have an established guy. You want to have the guy at quarterback that everybody knows, everybody in the fan base, everybody in the nation knows that this is the quarterback of the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
And right now, they don't have that guy.
Do you think Speight could be that guy? Because I think he can.
I see the things there.
Yeah,
like you're talking about, I don't see them as bad decisions as much. It was just they were bad throws. I think it's more concerning.
I think it was a little more quick on the draw too. I feel like he got flustered a bit, and instead of taking that extra second to find the open guy, he just got scared and chucked it out. Mm-hmm. You saw that stuff, and then the obviously the pick sixes. Bad bounces and such, whatever. But
they were both high. The first one was high, and the second one was extremely high.
Yeah,
it was uncatchable.
Whatever. I don't want to just write the guy off, just yet.
Yeah, I don't think just yet. I think he still has the talent. I think he could be elite college quarterback for sure.
And he's like I said, there is time now. You got past the Florida game, and that was huge. That was a neutral site. It was a lot of build up. At the first game, you never know what the heck's going to happen in the first game.
And
we talked about last.
I think the biggest thing that's going to help Speight going forward is this rushing attack, because they really struggled to run the ball against good defenses last year, and you hadn't seen that dominating offensive line just overpower people. Yeah. And you get into the third, especially into the fourth quarter, where you wear defenses down and you just pound the ball down their throats, which is kind of a Jim Harbaugh specialty. You hadn't seen that yet at Michigan, and I was waiting to see that, and we saw it against a good defense in Florida. And I think that's probably the most exciting thing, and the thing that's really going to help Speight going forward is that can limit him being in situations where he can make mistakes. It's more likely for him to make mistakes in third and long situations if you have a great running attack. And they ran for over 200 yards. Ty Isaac looked great. Chris Evans looked great. The whole offense, in terms of rushing, looked fantastic.
They did, man. It's hard to dispute these numbers, man. Ty Isaac especially, 11 carries, 114 yards.
Yeah, 10 yards a carry, 10.4.
Evans was the workhorse, 78 yards. But
anytime you can run against a good defense, like Dan said, that's good.
Yeah,
keep them off.
Those guys, they're big, they're fast, and our guys were bigger and faster, and that's what Florida's coach McElwain said. Man, just straight up, offense and defense, they were just bigger, stronger, faster, and they just beat us up. And there was nothing much more he could say, because that's what happened. We went out there on a neutral site, first game of the year, all these questions, and we took a street fight to Florida, and we beat them down. And they had, you threw 2 pick sixes, and we just shut that down after that. The defense only gave up 3 points. Think about total. 3 points in total.
That was the first drive.
Yeah, the first drive. They shut them out after the first drive, and they held their composure after the mistakes. There's something to be said for that. And I don't want to talk about this game like it was a loss. It was a dominating win over the number 17 team in the country on a neutral site.
Yeah, it's a big win.
It was a big win. Say what you want about the suspensions. We talked about that last week, and they could hold some weight going down the line. But this is a big win against a big time program. So take it for what it's worth. I would think what I say, we can wrap it up as far as Michigan goes, is that the defense is as good as advertised, and I think they're only going to get better. I think these guys are ready. They're fat. They're big. They're strong. They're fast. They're smart. They may be young, but Don Brown is not young. No. You know, and I think he knows his players. He has his players. This defense is ready to rock, and I think you're going to see this week in and week out.
Yeah, I was impressed.
And they got some patty cakes coming up. They're gonna, and I think that you're only going to see them get better. There's going to be a lot of comparing. Now, this is the 20-year anniversary, obviously, of the 97 team, the greatest defense ever assembled in college football. I will hold the ground on that.
Just because Charles Woodson.
Only defensive player to ever win the Heisman, man.
Yeah, baby. And you got to get Payne, Sweat, Steele.
You'll find out he has a crush on him.
I love those names of that defense.
It is. It was the perfect defense, man. Charles Woodson, man, and all those guys, man. Tommy Hendricks, man. Big shout out to Tommy Hendricks. Hopefully we're going to get to talk to him soon, man. Dude, like, a lot of these guys were so freaking awesome, man. But these guys are getting comparisons to last year's defense, which was phenomenal. And then they're going to be getting comparisons to the 97 defense because it's a 20-year anniversary, and everybody's going to want to talk about that. But this defense is... Dude, look at this. And not one guy really stood out, man, if you look at these stats.
Well,
man.
Devin Bush stood out.
Oh, Devin Bush stood out for sure,
yeah,
man. 2 sacks. But, dude, all across the board, man, like everybody's getting sacks. Everybody's getting tackles for loss. Everybody's getting tackles, man. Like, people were making plays all around this defense, man. There was nobody that was... Like, this is a unit. Man, it's a defensive unit.
Down boy.
Yeah, and they are. It's. I'm excited to watch them, and so we'll see. Can Wilton Speight get over his whatever it is for this guy? Just stop. Just don't screw up, man. That's all you got to do is just don't
lose
screw
the
up.
game.
Don't lose games. Be a quarterback manager or whatever, I guess, and we'll see how far we go. We got to move over to the other side.
The green and white.
The green and white.
You got the green and white hat on right now.
Yeah, well, it's a tiger hat.
Yeah, I know, it's still green and white.
Green and white tiger hat.
And the green and white beer, too.
Yeah.
You're all Michigan State.
Well...
Shouldn't say that.
I like Michigan State, I do, but, man, are they at the other end of the totem pole right now as far as... this rivalry, things have flipped, man. Like, is Michigan State back to being little brother without really losing? I mean, they lost a lot of ground last year, but they're still the only ones who have been to the playoffs. They're still the only ones who have won a Big Ten championship game. Like, they're the only ones
to it. Michigan hasn't even been to it yet.
Yeah, right. Beat Ohio State in some huge matchups. So, what do we see there? Like we're all Michigan fans. I do like Michigan State.
I like both.
I like both. I'm a State of Michigan guy, like my boy Terry Foster. I always proclaim though that I'm 51% Wolverine, 49% Spartan. I got a couple drops down now though because I'm kind of a Bronco now, so I'm a little bit torn on this game. With Michigan State Western, but we'll talk about that one later. I think that's gonna be fun to talk about. But I do know I'm a Michigan fan, but I'm a Michigan State fan. And we're gonna talk Michigan State. They beat Bowling Green. They look good. They beat a pretty bad Bowling Green team. I mean, and they didn't really super dominate them either.
Yeah, they did.
It was pretty dominating.
They dominated them.
It was pretty.
It was close in the first half.
James Morgan only had 150 or 45 yards and an interception. I mean, they didn't have much offense. They only had 67 rushing yards. So I would say it's a domination.
Yeah, it was a dominating effort. It was a good opening game for Michigan State. It kind of, get their feet wet in the season. A nice opening win and kind of get some of the bad talk, the bad vibrations around them, kind of off a little bit. I mean, they're not completely off, obviously, but it kind of gets them going. They're 1-0, and they can kind of get rolling here. And I was impressed with Brian Waworke. 23 for 33, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And he also ran the ball quite well. He had over 60 yards rushing. So
and he looked like he looked good last year, and he went down with that like a broken leg, and looks like he came back from that 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't think there's any issues there. He looks like he's the guy for the year. I'd like. And they got a running game, man. They run the ball
215 yards rushing. Which the surprising spot was L.J. Scott. 15 carries with 39 rushing yards.
Yeah.
So he didn't do too good.
I think he'll be fine. There were, I think he probably had a rough summer. Like he's been in the program for a couple years now, and I know he probably took a lot of heat. There's probably a lot of this stuff that has gone down, like because he's been there like when Michigan State was at the top of the mountain, and then now he's seeing the downfall. There's got to be a lot of a weight on his shoulders with that. So
that makes sense.
I'm not gonna slam him too hard yet. I think he's still gonna be a star. And I say this, man, I saw him the first game he played. He was a true freshman against Western, and I was at the Western Michigan State game 2 years ago. And for the first time I saw this guy run, I'm like, this guy's gonna be a star. And I'm waiting for that. I think that's gonna happen this year. I think you're gonna see L.J. Scott be the next great Michigan State running back, and there's a lineage there. There's a lot of Michigan State. If they're known for one thing, they produce running backs, and I think L.J. Scott is the next one. And you're going to see him, depending on how Michigan State does. I think you'll see him maybe in some type of Heisman talk, possibly. He's going to have some real big games, a lot bigger than this last one. But I think he's going to break out this year.
He also had 2 fumbles. I don't know if you knew that.
Well,
sorry to burst your bubble.
I know that happens.
I know. See, I just wanted to point that out too. It was a really bad game. So
I'm going to make excuses for L.J. Scott because I'm on the L.J. Scott train, man. I have been for 2 years now, and I think he is. I think he's going to have a great year.
I agree. I just had to throw that.
You're an L.J. Scott guy. He had a bad game. I'm a Will Spate guy. He had a bad game.
Yeah.
I almost brought that up. I almost brought that up.
Yeah, you got to, man. But in Michigan State, come on. I'm still thinking 6-6. I think that's pretty much the consensus across the board with Michigan State right now. They're in some type of middle ground here, man, where they were up there. They rode D'Antonio, brought them to heights that they haven't seen, and since the '89 Rose Bowl, or that season, like Michigan State, D'Antonio has brought them up, and then now times are changing, man, and they got hit hard, from a lot of different angles, but there's still talent there. D'Antonio still knows how to win football games.
Yeah, I think they're going to be better off than people think.
I think last year was more of an anomaly, more of a just a one-off type deal. I don't think you're going to see Michigan State go 3-9.
I think they might even be better at 6-6. I really think they're going to be better than a lot of people. I think they're going to bounce back. Obviously not be Big Ten champs or anything like they were, but I definitely think they're going to bounce back and be better than 6-6.
I would feel a lot better about them if they were on the other side, on the West, instead of the East, having to go against Penn State, division. Michigan, Ohio State. It's going to be tough for them to get back in that top tier. But, I was impressed by Workey, what he was able to do. That really interests me in terms of how well he played. And if they can get stability at the quarterback position, along with that stable of running backs, you talk about L.J. Scott, we think he'll bounce back and have better performances. But you talk about Mondre London, Gerald Holmes, all these guys, they can roll, 3-4 running backs out there, in combination and really pound the ball. If they, if they get stability at the quarterback position, like Joe said, maybe they can get more than 6 wins. Maybe they can jump up and upset somebody.
It's quite possible. Now, listen, though, we're going to definitely get into picks later in the podcast, but I do wonder what you guys think about the future of Michigan State, their immediate future. They have, you got 2 programs that are in some type of transition mode themselves. Where you got Western coming in, and then you got Notre Dame. These are 2 wins where now Western just made huge headlines over in California, where almost beating a number 4 USC at the Rose Bowl. That is not easy to do. And Western, man, they were pulling all the stops. I mean, they had that great double pass that was just awesome to watch. You know, and you had the huge story with the USC long snapper who was blind, and it was kind of set up before the game, and you know, so I mean, there was some good karma there going on with it, and Western made more headlines. You know, they made a lot of headlines last year with PJ Fleck, and then PJ Fleck leaving, and it was like, wow, you had the quarterback, and of course Corey Davis getting drafted in the first round, so they lost a lot of talent. But they're coming in, and this team is still real solid, and they're going into Michigan State, and they're gonna have something to say. They're gonna play a really, really good game. So Michigan State, they have a very tough battle, and then they got Notre Dame. Like, if you get off to if you lose these 2 in a row, there you go. You're spiraling down again. So
this is a big game. This next game is a big game for Michigan State, because if they can get past Western team that showed what they could do against USC. I mean, it was 28-28 with about 5-6 minutes to go in USC.
Yeah, the 4th.
So I mean, USC's looked as one of the top teams in the nation. You know, a Heisman candidate Darnold. You know, to take them down, take them to the wire like that. I mean, that really showed something. So if Michigan State can come out and beat Western, go to 2-0. Then you're looking at the Notre Dame game as the real measuring stick to see where Michigan State is at a program. Because if they can roll out the 3-0 with a win over Notre Dame, win over Western Michigan, then you're really thinking, well, maybe Michigan State's back. Maybe D'Antonio's turned things around real quick, and Michigan State's back and getting things rolling again. Yep. On the opposite end of the spectrum, they could just as easily lose these next 2, go to 1-2, and things start spiraling out of control, and all those bad vibes start coming back, and you start talking about D'Antonio, and is he on the hot seat? So both of these next 2 games, especially this next game against Western, is gigantic, not only for the season, but for the program in general. It's huge.
Oh, it's so huge. It's going to be watched, man, because you have a Michigan State team that had a dismal year last year after, you know, being on the top of the mountain, pretty much, man. As far as Michigan State goes, like, it was like they just lived their glory years and just had a torrential crash last year. And you had a Western team who put themselves on the map and were in one of the biggest bowl games of last year and almost pulled it out.
They gave Wisconsin a battle.
Yeah, they were undefeated going into that game. Yeah, and it was a big story of them losing their coach, and they lost a few top players, obviously, but it is also obvious that this team is still not only just relevant, but could really make some noise. They almost did. They did. Like they
did make noise.
They made noise in week 1 of the college football season. You know, going to USC and do what they did. This team, this Western team, is for real, and they're going to come into East Lansing feeling like they not only have a shot at winning, but they're probably going to go in thinking that they're the better team, and they might be. And, you know, we'll see.
It's one of the many games this Saturday that I'm looking for.
College football,
one of the better Saturdays that I can remember.
Oh, man, you say that every year, though.
No, this is a big. I mean, there's a lot of.
You said that last week.
No, I did. I took for an opening day, but there's 3 games of top 15 teams.
And it's gonna be every week, though, man. Like, that's college football, man. Every week there's games that just are so appealing. You know, because that's where I watch, man. I get up in the morning, I watch my game day, you know, and you start watching football. You watch football all day, man. I can watch 14 hours of football in a Saturday because there's matchups every week, man. And it's nothing new, you know. This isn't the best weekend of college football ever, but I mean, there's a lot of good matchups.
This one's a good one.
Starting with you know.
We'll say that every week.
No, but there's 3 games. There's 3 games where top 15 teams are battling each other. Yeah. You just don't see that very often.
No, you do. You just forget, man, because it goes so fast.
Yeah.
Every week there's matchups, but it's good matchups. It's college football, baby. Every week there's matchups you want to see. But look, no, this Saturday is going to be special. It is. It really is. There's a lot of great games. But yeah, we're gonna move on here, man. There's a lot more to talk about. College football is on display right now. We got a guy who used to pitch for us that pitched for somebody else the other night. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys remember him. It starts with a V, something. He threw a couple good games for us, and now he's with somebody else. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about the Detroit Lions. We're going to break down the whole season. We're going to get into a lot more stuff here, so stay with us. This is the Detroit Sports Sit Down.
High fly ball, right field. Ordonez backing up. He is there. No-hitter for Justin Verlander. The first Tigers no-hitter since 1984 when Jack Morris no-hit the White Sox. What a scene at Comerica Park. Here's the 2-2 pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Verlander has done it again. The second no-hitter. They may have run the Kentucky Derby today, but the Tiger Horse was number one.
Last night I was given 45 minutes to make the hardest decision of my life. As I'm sure most of you have heard by now, I accepted a trade to the Houston Astros. Firstly, I want to thank everyone here in Detroit, from the front office to all of my teammates, and especially the fans. The way you guys have treated me over the last 12 years has been so special to me. Going all the way back to 2006, when this city was in turmoil, I remember the way everybody rallied around our team going to the World Series that year and what it meant to this city. What a special time in my life. You know, I find myself now, I'm excited to go to Houston. It's another city in turmoil right now, as everybody knows. I'm excited to give the city something to rally around and something to cheer for and root for, and hopefully we can bring a championship to Houston. So I'm excited about this next chapter in my life.
First of all, I just wanted to say how excited I am to be here and be an Astro. Obviously, this was a emotional decision for me, being in one place for so long. It really felt like family there, and I'm excited for my new family. I see this team. I have to pitch against this team, so I know how good these guys are. The opportunity to come play for a championship caliber team for not only this year, but for the remainder of my contract is ultimately what it really came down to. And guys here, I was able to talk to a couple guys after everything, and everybody was amazing on the phone and so helpful, and I can't thank everybody enough. Hopefully we can bring a championship to a city that really could use something like that right now, and hopefully I can be a part of that.
What do you say about a guy like Justin Verlander? A few things come off the top of the head. He's got a supermodel girlfriend, wife now. Drives a Ferrari to work every day. He's got some arrogance about him. People are a little salty that he waited till the last minute to get traded. He makes a lot of money. That stuff is so minuscule to what he did for Tiger baseball. He was one of the main components of one of the best eras in Detroit Tiger baseball. And Detroit Tiger baseball goes back over 100 years. You look back to guys like Ty Cobb, Hank Greenberg, Al Kaline. You know, you think about the history. The World Series is in the 30s, and that you know, 68, 1984. You know, you guys like Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, Kirk Gibson. When you think of Tiger legends, Justin Verlander is going to be in that conversation every single time. And now he's gone. And it's official. It is super official because he pitched his first game for Houston. And what did he do? He went out there and he dominated. And he got a win. And that's what he does. That's what he did for this organization for so long. It's upsetting. And it looked very, very strange to see him in a different uniform. But at the same time, I felt good about it. I felt good. I was glad that Justin Verlander got to pitch in the moment again. And we're going to be seeing a lot of moments in the next 2 months out of Justin Verlander because the Houston Astros aren't going anywhere. They're probably going to be in the World Series. And you're going to get to see Justin Verlander pitch in some incredibly high-pressure, huge moments. And I think he has deserved that. Was I upset that he got traded? Was I upset that he's not a Tiger no more, that the run is over, the window was closed, that the Tigers aren't going to be? It's not JV pitching in those high-pressure Game 5 playoff moments. Yeah, I'm upset. As a Tiger fan, these next few years are going to be very, very difficult because we're used to winning, and we're not going to be doing much of that for a long time to come. One of the most important players in Detroit Tiger history is gone now, but he's going to get to ride off his career the way he deserves because he pitched his ass off for us for over a decade. And I firmly believe the Tigers made the right decision in finding a way to trade Justin Verlander. And I am going to watch Houston in the postseason, and I hope they win. And I hope Justin Verlander gets to pitch Game 7 of the World Series, and he pitches a freaking no-hitter like he did twice for us before. And that's how I feel. People ask, like, don't you think he's a little arrogant? Like, why did he hold out for so long? Why did he make it so difficult for trade? Well, he wanted to go where he wanted to go. He wanted to go to Chicago. You know, and why not? Why wouldn't he? Like, if you had your choice to go to a baseball, why wouldn't you want to go pitch for the Cubs? Go pitch in Wrigley Field. You know, go pitch for another storied franchise. You know, Houston's not exactly a storied franchise. You know, he held out and tried to get to Chicago, but he gave the Tigers. Oh, he could have just said no and just not gone to Houston and just rode out the rest of this season, knowing damn well that he's just going to collect his money and just so be it with whatever else. But he gave the Tigers an out, and the Tigers got a decent haul. You know, they got prospects, solid prospects, really good prospects. And JV gets the chance to shine. And I'll be rooting for him. And Dan, are you going to be rooting for Justin Verlander in October?
I'm definitely going to be rooting for Justin Verlander. You know, I kind of talked to my wife earlier. I'm like, who are we going to root for? What teams are we going to root for? Because there's so many former Tigers all over these playoffs. Every team. You look at the Dodgers, they got Curtis Granderson. You look at the Cubs, they got Alex Avila and Justin Wilson. You look at the Nationals, they have Max Scherzer. And then you go into the American League. Now Houston's got Maven and Verlander. Verlander, my favorite player of all time. Just former Tigers all over the place. The Cleveland Indians, I just saw on Sunday, Austin Jackson's on Cleveland Indians. Just all these guys that were part of this great run of Tigers baseball. They're all in the playoffs. None of them are playing for the Tigers. And it's frustrating and it's sad, but you feel good for those guys that they're going to get that opportunity. You know, kind of most of those guys in the twilights of their careers going to get the opportunity to play in the playoffs and end their careers the way it should. Like the time you said it with JV, he didn't want to see him to be part of this rebuild and having to sit here through these losing seasons and, you know, kind of be the veteran in the Rocky. He deserves to go and try to win that World Series, which he deserves, without question. And it's sad. I hate to see my favorite player get traded, and it would have, in a way, would have been kind of nice to see him finish his career with the Tigers. You know, kind of way the Yzerman finished with the Red Wings. Yeah. You know, I kind of put, you know, Verlander's not quite in that Yzerman class because he didn't win the World Series. You know, Yzerman won 4 cups, but to me, Verlander is close to that category in terms of legends in Detroit. But like I am very happy for Verlander. He's going to get that opportunity to win that World Series.
Do you think he made a smart decision, Joe? And why didn't the Cubs I guess there wasn't much more the Cubs could offer, but do you think he was smart in trying to hold out for the Cubs? Do you think that will hurt him at all in Houston? In that, like, even with the fan base, saying, like, the rumors came out that he waited till the very last minute to see if another team would get him instead of Houston? Or do you think that was just business and he made a smart move?
I think it's all business when it comes down to it. You got to do what's the best for yourself, and he thought going to Chicago was the best for himself. But also he thought it was better than staying here, sticking around and rotting away, so to speak, in Detroit. His last, he's got, maybe 4 or 5 years left altogether, if that. So it is smart. It's bittersweet for me to see him go because, like you said, he's been here forever and he's, one of our best players. And all of a sudden to see him gone sucks, but it's good to see him to go to, the Astros where at least he has a chance. And like you guys, I'll be rooting for him too. At least he has a chance to win a World Series or at least to go to the playoffs.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have some of those national TV moments where it's going to be his time to shine, and that's what Verlander does, man. Like he's done it for so long, where he's not only scared of the big moment, he embraces it, he craves it.
Yeah,
and I can't wait to see. I hope it's Houston versus the Dodgers in the World Series, and Verlander gets a Game 7.
I want. I've been predicting it every year. Everybody has predictions before the year, and I've been predicting it every year. It's going to be Tigers, Nationals, Verlander for Scherzer, Game 7, and Comerica, Verlander beats them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to get with the Tigers, but I'm rooting for that moment to have Verlander versus Scherzer.
And that would be in Houston, and obviously Houston with the floods and all the turmoil, and
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
It would be incredibly bittersweet.
What a sports story,
man!
You very well could come down to that because Washington. I mean, the Dodgers, they look pretty much unbeatable, but baseball is very unpredictable, and Washington's damn good too. And that would be something to see. Verlander, Scherzer. It almost came down to it last year. I was predicting last year it was going to be Porcello, Scherzer in the World Series. That's another thing we didn't even mention him, man. Porcello with Boston. Not having such a great year this year, but Boston's going to be right there. Mm-hmm. You could see that in the ALCS, a little Porcello versus Verlander in some type of huge situation. That'd be fun to watch too. But and there's a lot. And Verlander, he's a class act, man. As far as he captured the situation, and he said, like, in that clip you played, Joe, he went on Instagram he just put it out there. He's like, look, this is how I feel. Like I'm leaving a team that I was here for my whole career, and we did a lot of special things, but the writing is on the wall, man. But I got a little left in the tank, and I'm coming to Houston. And so, then he went in, and I loved this part about what he said, is that like the foundation in Detroit is not going nowhere. They're going to keep doing hard work in Detroit, but he's coming to Houston, and his foundation is now going to be, there's going to be a second chapter, and that's that Houston chapter, and they got some work to do right in front of him. And so he's not only thinking about just baseball, like, in between him and, obviously his fiance, Kate Upton, they got a lot of star power between them. That's a lot of influence that they can have in that Houston community. And if you ask people that are involved with what Justin Verlander has done in Detroit, you'll know that like he's made a difference in Detroit, and he's not only thinking about playoff wins and a World Series in his own career. He knows he's walking into a city that was hit hard by a very devastating natural disaster, and he's ready to go to work on that too. I would like to see him and J.J. Watt hook up. J.J. Watt's already doing phenomenal things with what he's done, raising
Over 10 million already.
Yeah, they got over 13 last I saw. Yeah. Imagine what somebody like Verlander, especially with the buzz that he's obviously going to have coming to this new team, and if he keeps it up, like what kind of presence can he have in a town? And the universe works in crazy ways, man, and maybe this is just something that was supposed to happen. I don't know. Because he could fall on his face. What happens if all this weight comes on and he's doing all these good things, but then the World Series comes and he throws a dud like he did in 2012 or 2006, where things melt down and Houston loses the World Series, they get swept, and Verlander throws the ball over the first baseman's head a couple times. Then everything falls apart. So it might not be this perfect story that people think is coming.
In sports, anything can happen. That's why we love them.
Yeah, that's for sure. But I hope the best for him. I have, I'd say right now, and I was part of the. It's hard to say this, man. I was part of the sell, program.
Me too.
We got to rebuild. Like the window is closed. This team is just not winning. Let's just sell everything, get prospects, rebuild. But then it's like you say that, and then when things do start happening, it's kind of like.
No, you're right.
Man, this sucks.
I
don't like that.
But that's the thing. That's the thing that makes me so angry. Is how did they get to this point? Like they got to this point, and now that they're here, it's like, okay, they have to sell. But you didn't want them to get to that point.
How did they not win?
Who got us to this point, though?
If you really look into it, it's a combination of what Dombrowski did at the end. As much as I love Dombrowski,
I know that's why.
As much as I love Dombrowski, he made
him.
some very bad moves towards the end in terms of looking towards their future.
And he never really got the bullpen straight either. Man.
No,
he never did for the current. He
teams. Tried though. He tried.
But you look at some of the moves that he personally made that affected what the Tigers are now. Okay, trading Devin Travis for Anthony Gose. Anthony Gose is now trying to make him. He was an outfielder. They traded him to be the star center fielder. He's now trying to recreate himself as a pitcher in the minor leagues.
Hey, he does have a pretty nice fastball.
He might be something. He might end up turning out, but he's not the center fielder that they traded him to be.
No.
And they traded Devin Travis, who could end up being a star second baseman for Toronto. Okay, Eugenio Suarez is a star third baseman for the Cincinnati Reds. Young, cheap. They traded him. Alfredo Simon, absolute garbage starting pitcher. Okay, Robbie Ray. Originally, everybody was pissed off that they traded Doug Fister for Robbie Ray. In hindsight, that was a phenomenal trade, getting Robbie Ray. Bad part, they went and traded Robbie Ray right after that for Shane Green. Shane Green's halfway decent. He's not a closer. He's a closer right now just because of the situation. He's a 6th, 7th inning guy, nice relief pitcher. Robbie Ray's turning into a top, if not an ace, a number 2 or number 3 starter on a good team. 14 strikeouts in the game the other night that J.D. Martinez hit 4 home runs in. So these are the trades that Dombrowski made that really impacted the future and where we're at now. And then you go into Al Avila and just the disasters after disasters of moves that he made. Well, I would stay with Dombrowski, actually. There's still more. There's still more bad. I'm looking at it now. There's still more bad moves. Bringing in Brad Ausmus in 2014 to take over a win-now team. I mean, Brad Ausmus had no major league experience. Instead of going in and getting an experienced manager to take over this win-now team filled with veterans, they bring in Brad Ausmus to learn on the job. Absolute disaster. They get swept in the 2014 DS against Baltimore, where they had 3 Cy Young pitchers going, and they get swept against Baltimore. Completely outmanaged. Brad Ausmus has been a disaster since the beginning. Re-signing Cabrera. He's going to be here till age 42. They got him for another 5-6 years of Cabrera. He's completely falling apart.
Richer as the years go
and he keeps getting more and more expensive as he continues to get worse and worse and worse. And the absolute worst contract extension of them all.
Yeah, I know.
Victor Martinez.
Yeah, I knew that from the get-go.
How about Anibal Sanchez though?
Sanchez is another horrible.
What a horrible!
He was just dropped off though.
He dropped off. That one wasn't one you could really predict as much.
Yeah, he dropped off real quick.
Yeah, he led the American League in ERA, and then they re-signed him, and then he completely fell off. So that one you can give him a little bit of an out on. But Victor Martinez was 36 years old when they
played catcher most of his career.
Played catcher, and
he
was a DH. You knew he wasn't going to play any defensive positions, and he was just going to continue to deteriorate. And you signed him for 4 years.
You knew he had his best year that they signed him. I said that as soon as it happened. That's his best year he's ever going to have again.
Listen though, before we start slamming for what the state we're in, Dombrowski was instructed by Mike Ilitch to win now. And those were win now moves, win now contracts. And if there was 1 or 2 World Series rings on these guys' fingers from the Tigers, none of this stuff would even matter right now.
You're right.
But we
didn't get them.
We didn't get them.
So we're talking about
2 World Series but no rings. But so do you blame Dombrowski too much for the win now mentality? When we were winning, we just didn't win at all.
But those trades didn't help them in the win now. Anthony Ghost didn't help them win now. Alfredo Simon didn't help them win now. Shane Green didn't help them win now. Those did not help them win in the current situation. And those are guys they could have. Devin Travis, Wayne Suarez, Robbie Ray. Those are all guys that could be huge right now in terms of this transition period. It could be more of a transition instead of a total rebuild that it's going to be. Because he didn't do a good enough job of trying to win now in the situation, but also with an eye towards the future, what it's going to be down the road. And now they didn't get the World Series. They didn't, so they didn't get the top thing that they needed to kind of wrap this whole era of Tigers baseball into one thing and have that World Series. There's nothing to really look at. There's some great games, some great moments, but there's no championship to hang your hat on. And now we got at least 4 to 5 years of bad baseball to look forward to, and it's so disappointing because you look at some of these moves that maybe had gone differently, maybe we're not in this situation.
I thought at least we got some good prospects for Verlander. I thought it was better than what we were going to get. Like Franklin Perez, he's the number 2 or 62nd overall prospect, and he's a right-handed pitcher. And they really think that he's going to be the real deal. So, we did get some good prospects. We got also Jake Rogers, who's a catcher, and he's supposed to be a really good defensive catcher. So that's something we're going to need down the future. And then there's Des Cameron. I guess he was 37th pick overall in the 2015 draft. So he has potential, but he just never really did anything so far. He's just not hitting like they thought, but he has power and he still has a lot of upside. So I think we did get some good talent for him. So it does suck to see him go, but at least it's going to help us, maybe in the future.
This was the best move that Avila made. It took till 11:59 on August 31st to finally make that move, but he did bring in now 3 prospects that are in the Tigers' top 10. So this was a trade that absolutely needed to be made to help this rebuild. Because if this trade wasn't made, say Verlander had declined the no trade, or put his no trade clause and just declined this trade, they would really be sitting in a bad position right now. But to get 3 top 10 prospects in their system, it really helps the rebuild.
It does, but you know what? I'm probably going to just go back to not watching much baseball for a while, man. It's probably what it's going to be.
You'll watch.
I've talked about starting to go into some minor league games. This is going to be the time to do it over these next couple of years.
That's what it is, man. Like for me, football and basketball are the 2 sports where even when we suck, I'm still watching. But baseball and hockey, just they're not sports that I can if we're bad I can watch. Man,
baseball I have a hard time in basketball.
Basketball, when your team sucks at basketball, at least there's I don't even know. I just like basketball.
That's better what it is.
I don't know. It's just more entertaining. I could still go to a Pistons game when they're bad because I can still watch a couple stars, and see some cool stuff, man. When your team is terrible at baseball, it's just boring and slow, and you're just losing all the time. Like, it's just not fun.
When the Tigers are going and they're in a pennant race, you're kind of watching all these other teams too, because you're rooting against them.
Yeah.
But now you don't have the Tigers are going to suck, so you're not even really paying attention to the other teams as much because you're not rooting. There's nobody to really root against.
Well, with the NFL, I mean, I'm just used to the Lions being bad, I guess. But I love football that much. Where if there's football on, I'm watching it. Baseball, not so much, man, because baseball's not the most exciting sport, especially when your team's not in it.
The playoffs are fun to watch.
Yeah.
I enjoy the playoffs. The intensity really picks up.
Even when the Tigers aren't involved?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah. I love Major League Baseball playoffs, but you look at the regular season, I mean, if there's no rooting interest if the Tigers aren't very good and then you don't have any teams to root against, so you don't have your rooting interest. I'm not just going to watch a random Sunday night baseball game in the middle of the regular season, game 67, game 72 of the regular season.
Yeah.
There's no interest in that for me. But I still love the playoffs. I'm still going to watch the playoffs.
And I do too. I mean, the playoffs are fun because it is intense.
Especially this. I mean, like we talked about, there's so many former Tigers, playing. So there is a lot to watch, especially this year.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, so there it is, folks. It's kind of the wrap up of the season. Football is king, so you probably won't hear us talk much about the Tigers as we go forward. That's pretty much it. We'll talk about these playoffs and all the former Tigers and how you could pick off a whole roster of guys in the playoffs of former Tigers that would probably win the freaking World Series this year. How frustrating is that to think about? Literally, we'll probably think of. We should put that together.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
We could put that together for next show. Is that I bet you could put like a 15-man roster of guys that are either like gonna be in the playoffs for sure, like obviously I think Houston's already clinched or they're about to. Anybody on the Dodgers is gonna clinch. There's guys that are for sure in, and the guys that just might on teams that might be in. You could pick probably 15 prominent former Tigers and put together a freaking roster, and that team could probably win the World Series this year. And it's disheartening for sure. But for me, baseball's over. It is.
For the most part, yeah.
I really don't care because I got so much focus, man, on football. It's football season, and it's here. And speaking of that, the Lions are playing Sunday. Oh, baby. Forward down the field, a charging team that will not yield. And when the blue
I'll cut
and
this.
silver
Don't worry, Dan. I'll
wave,
cut this, all right?
Stand and cheer the brave. Rah, rah, rah. No, man. They start this Sunday, man. We got a tough Arizona team coming in. They were not even, God, what is it? 5-5. They 7-8-1 last year.
Yeah, I think the tie was Seattle.
Arizona, yeah, they had that tie. So not even a 500 team, but man, I picked them to win the Super Bowl last year. But that's it goes to show, man. The NFL, you never know. But we're gonna pick all the games coming up. We're gonna pick all the games, so stay with us. This is the Detroit Sports Sit Down, and when we come back, we're talking Lions, baby.
Today, we know this league is based on throwing the football, right? And when you have a guy like Matthew Stafford that can deliver the football, has led plenty of comeback victories over his time. Now, if we can surround him, and this is a thing to watch transitioning into this year, and our preview for this year, is the running game. 30th, I believe, in 15, 31st, or somewhere around there in 16. We have to be able to get that at least in the top half of the league. If you can get this running game in the top half of the league, I'm telling you, this offense is poised to explode this year.
Well, here in Buffalo for the last preseason game, we're looking at the opener against the Arizona Cardinals. We talk about the offense. You said it's primed to explode. What are the key elements there, and what are the concerns, if there are any?
Well, cliche, but cliches are true because they're cliches and they're true. And here's one: is the offensive line has to stay healthy, right? You put a big investment in Wagner and Lang on the right side. Those guys got to play well. You have to have Greg Robinson fill in and be healthy and stout until Taylor Decker gets back. Swanson's solid at center, and Glasgow's got to perform. So that offensive line has to be good. Amir Abdullah, Theo Riddick, and whoever the third back ends up being, those guys, when they get their opportunity, have to produce on the ground because that opens everything up.
But do they have the firepower at wide receiver, putting an awful lot on maybe on Kenny Galladay to be not just a third receiver, but a 2A or 2B to go with Golden Tate, and maybe a bounce-back year for Marvin Jones
I think,
Jr.?
Golden Tate, his numbers speak for themselves, right? Statistically, catches 90 balls a year, 1,000 yards, very good run after catch. I think Marvin Jones wants to be a little bit more consistent, as we talked about. Then the third position, whoever that is. We don't know who that is. I don't think that's been defined yet, that slot receiver position. Maybe it'll be Theo Riddick. We don't know. But that position has to obviously produce. But here's the other thing, healthy Eric Ebron. That's a problem for teams. If he's healthy, then Matthew Stafford can perform at his highest level.
And you see him ascend this year? I mean, he's moved up incrementally in 3 years. Can he do it again and get in the end zone and be more consistent?
Ebron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's what he gets paid to do, and we just got to keep him on the field and stay healthy. But he's certainly somebody that defenses need to account for.
Now, there is another side of the ball. It's called defense. You played it.
Yeah.
26 sacks last year for the Detroit Lions. Ziggy Ansah, subpar most of the year because of an ankle injury. Lose Kerry Hyder Jr. in the preseason, second series.
Yeah.
Where do they get a pass rush, and is that an issue for the Detroit Lions?
Well, that was a tough loss to Kerry Hyder Jr. because of what he brought last year and his energy. And plus, he was a outside pass rusher and an inside pass rusher. Ziggy's got to be Ziggy. I mean, he's a premier pass rusher in the National Football League. If he's healthy, he causes a lot of problems. Then the guy that will surprise people, I think, would be Anthony Zettel, right? Didn't he show this preseason? To me, he showed he should have a great year. So their pass rush should definitely be improved from what it was in 16.
And behind him, the Lions drafted a linebacker on Florida in the first round, Jared Davis. You played a little bit of linebacker in your career. What do you think of this kid, and can he step in and lead a defense as a middle linebacker?
I think he has help leading the defense, but the more he plays, the more plays he makes, the more confidence he obtains, then yes, he can step in and lead this defense. But Tyre Whitehead's a solid veteran at linebacker position. But yeah, I think their defense is a chance to be improved and better, and they have to create turnovers.
And finally, we'll give it a quick wrap, but going into the season, is this a playoff team for the second straight year, the third time in 4 years, and challenge the Green Bay Packers in the NFC North?
Yes, but the first 8 games of the season are going to be the real test.
That was sort of like the cliche true beginning. Thanks for being with you. Stick with us in the regular season. We'll be right with you for all 16 games.
And there you have it. That was Mike O'Hara, longtime Detroit Lions beat writer, and Chris Spielman, obviously a Detroit Lions great, breaking down the season. And Spielman said it, it's cliches, but that's pretty much where this Lions team is. I mean, they're right in the crossroads, right in the middle of the pack here, where they've been knocking on the door for a little while now. You got the great Aaron Rodgers that
keeps slamming the door.
Yeah, but obviously Lions fans, same old Lions, SOL, one playoff win, 50 years, blah blah blah. You can go through all that, and Lions fans get all hyped up every year, but we're so quick to lose faith because we have every reason in the world to not even have faith. But here we are on the doorstep, a few days away from it's a brand new season, and it's a new team in some respects. We got some same old faces. Head coach Jim Caldwell, Matthew Stafford. We got some guys who've been here for a minute, but this team, it's revamped. There's some questions. There's some issues. Obviously, a lot of people were, including myself, were turned off. Not turned off as far as not going to watch or too disgruntled, but worried, I guess, about the Week 3 performance against the Patriots. That was very disturbing, to say the least. But it was just preseason. But we're here now. Everything's here. The 53-man roster is set. We know where our holes are. Obviously, left tackle is an issue. Greg Robinson has performed respectably, for sure. Looks like he can fill in. And then the right side of the line revamped completely with Wagner and TJ Lang, guys that are proven veterans. Lang, a Super Bowl champion. There's positives and there's negatives about this team, and we're going to go through them. So, Dan, what is before we get into this game-by-game breakdown, what is your overall analysis of this year's, the 2017 Detroit Lions? Like, overall, what do you expect out of this team going into, week one, only a few days away?
Well, the biggest thing, that's going to change is they got to stay healthy. That is the biggest thing of this whole season. Is if their key players, especially offensively, can stay healthy, and especially in the running game with Riddick and Abdullah. If those two guys right there can stay healthy and play close to 16 games throughout the season, there's no reason why the Lions can't be right there to get a division title in that last game against Green Bay. And we saw it last year. They got to 9-4, and then those guys got hurt, and then you add in Stafford's finger injury, and things fell apart. This team, I think this is a quality team. I think they're very underrated. I think Vegas has them at 7.5 total wins. I would take the over on that. Absolutely take the over on that. I think this team is talented. I think they're good enough to contend with Green Bay for the division. And again, it all comes back to health. I think you can probably say that about any team. But I think it really affects the Lions just because you saw it last year how much it affected them with Riddick and Abdullah being out. And now you go into the season, they're healthy.
That's where you see the difference in these elite teams and then teams that are on the fringe, where one or two injuries can just completely destroy a team. Where you got a team like the Patriots, where Tom Brady, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, is suspended, and you bring in backup guys, and they're still winning games. Like they have a deep roster, and that's how they get to where they're supposed to be. But look at a team like the Raiders that were towards the end of the season, the Raiders were the pick to go to the Super Bowl, the team that could dethrone the Patriots possibly, and then they lose their quarterback, Derek Carr, and then everything pretty much falls apart. They still made the playoffs, but
they made it before he got hurt.
Yeah, they pretty much got shut down. One player, obviously it's a quarterback. They're great, great up and coming quarterback, but it goes to show you how deep you need to be on your 53-man roster for an entire NFL season.
I know they say this every year, but Caldwell did say this is the deepest that they've been since he's been here. He did say that in one of the press conferences. But you take that all for what it is. Speak. I mean,
I would assume he says that every year.
I would assume that too. But I just wanted to point that out, that he did say that. So I don't know if he's one of those guys that say it every year.
Maybe that's a realistic statement, because they are. I mean, and you see, and we have Bob Quinn has some time under his belt now, and he's been bringing in quality guys. And guys,
Robinson is a prime example. We talked about it in some of our first podcast, how much of a disaster this could be, losing your left tackle, and we're talking about should they move Wagner over there, and all these different scenarios that they should go through if they don't have a left tackle, and how disastrous this could be. And then they go and make a trade for Greg Robinson. He comes in, change of scenery, and it looks like he might be able to step in and control that.
Now
spot.
and you know what, we're gonna see though, because it is Sunday is the real test now. It's all for real now, and Arizona is not coming in lightly. I mean, they've had some off-season moves, but Arizona, they were one of the best defenses last year, and not a ton is going to change. They're still going to have speed on the defensive line. They're still going to come after us. They're going to have a great secondary with Patrick Peterson and
their defense is really good.
That's going to be a huge test for the Lions offense. And, with a younger, kind of hurting defense, it's going to be important for the Lions offense to be able to put points on the board. because Arizona's going to come out, man. You know, you got the best, you know, the most prominent offensive weapon of all of last year in David Johnson at running back, and also probably one of their best receivers, really. Like, catching passes out of the backfield, man, he's good for 5-10 yards. So every time he catches a ball.
Every time he touches the ball.
Yeah. Scary what that guy can do. And then you got Larry Fitzgerald, who's been playing since the 80s and still
phenomenal.
I'm surprised still. It still shocks me to this day. I remember a few years ago thinking he's done. And
I remember when him and Jerry Rice were competing to be the top 2 wide receivers in the league.
Not that old. Give him a little bit. He's still playing at a high level too, man.
He is.
But the guy has not been playing at a high level, who I thought really dropped off quite a bit, and that's Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
He's up there, man.
Taking a toll. I think the offensive line for Arizona really dropped off last year because he was just getting bad.
Well, that was a big problem for them because, like I said, I really thought that they were a team, because of that defense mostly, was the team that could get to the Super Bowl, and they really had an off year last year, and that offensive line was a big part of it. And Carson Palmer, I mean, he's very talented, veteran guy. Never really got to the top of the mountain. You know,
he's always been close, but never made that next step.
And
he's 37.
He's up there, man. Now, if the Lions can get after him, and then, but it's going to start with that run. You know, we got to have that run defense. If you can take David Johnson, you know, like a Michael Jordan scenario, like, you know, don't try to stop him, just try to contain him. You know, you keep him under wraps, get after the.
Make someone else beat you.
Yeah, you get Arizona in, you know, 3rd and longs, and that's where you can just tee off on Palmer.
Yeah.
Palmer's not gonna he's not gonna move around in the pocket or get outside the pocket. Yep. You don't have to worry about his scrambling ability. If you can get them in 3rd long situations, and Ziggy Ansah, who appears to be back, we'll see how healthy he is. Hopefully, he is playing at 100% and not 60-70% like he was playing with last year. He was not the real Ziggy Ansah last year when he was playing. So if he can come back and be close to 100%, be close to the Ziggy Ansah, we remember, along with Anthony Zettel, who Chris Spielman mentioned in the clip we played, you know, had a great preseason. It looks like he can really be a beast at the other defensive end spot. You know, you get them in 3rd and long situations, they can just tee off on Carson Palmer and really get that pass rush going and get some sacks and put the Lions in good position.
Good field position, and then, you know, you let Stafford. You have to imagine that Stafford's going to want to come out and just be a gunslinger, too.
But you can't.
He's not. He's a professional. He's going to follow the game plan. But you know that he wants to get all this talk about the contract and the top paid player history. He does not want to come out and throw 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, get beat at home, game 1, 31-10, and just start the season off like that. So, you know, if you could be extra motivated by a contract situation or by money or all that talk, I think he could be swayed this week to really go out there and be extra motivated, you know, because this game is a really big game for the Lions. You're starting out at home. You're starting out against a team that's like solid, and with all the offseason talk, he's got a lot to prove this game, and I think he's going to come out and perform. I think this team's going to click, and we're going to let's start it now. I'll start it off. There's 16 games. Week 1, I think the Lions beat Arizona. I think they come out and win Week 1.
I have them as a loss. I think their defense is just a little too good. Their offense is just okay. I think defense wins. So I'm going to have to take Arizona.
I'm taking the Lions. I think Carson Palmer's done. I think, like I said, I think they're going to be able to, you know, kind of load up the box, contain David Johnson, get them in 3rd long situations, and I think they're going to beat Carson Palmer up, and I think Lions take this one.
All right, Week 2, Monday Night Football, New York Giants.
In New York.
In New York. I think the Lions take the momentum, carry over the momentum, go on to Monday Night Football, have another good performance. I think Eli's going to throw 4 picks, 3 of them to Darius Slay. I got the Lions going 2-0.
Well, I am the opposite. I have the Lions going 0-2 because I just think Stafford outside on the road just won't get it done. So I'm going to have to take the Giants on that one.
I'm going to take the Giants as well in this one. On the road, Monday Night Football, that stadium's going to be rocking. I think it'll be a good game, but I think the Giants take this one in the end.
All right. Week 3. The should have been Super Bowl champions of last year, Atlanta Falcons, come to town. Obviously, they blew it, and one of the really most shocking Super Bowls I've ever seen. Man.
People were shocked when I told them. I had friends upstairs were not watching, and they're like, "No way, you're joking."
Like, what? It was just unbelievable. But I mean, Atlanta, they're good. They're real good. I think the Lions get their first loss, and unfortunately, it'll be at home. It'll be a big game because the Lions will be 2-0. I think Atlanta at that point will probably be 2-0. It'll be a much hyped up game. But I think Atlanta comes in and shows their dominance, and the Lions get their first loss.
Yeah, I have a loss too. 0-3.
0-3.
I'm sorry. I'm just going by what I see.
Oh, my Lord.
I just, too much firepower. Just way too much firepower for Atlanta. We just don't have a chance, I don't think.
I got this as a loss as well. I got the Lions at 1-2 now. Like Joe said, I think Atlanta's just got too much firepower. Matt Ryan, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, Julio Jones, playing inside.
Plus a good defense.
On turf. They do have a quality defense. It's probably be a shootout. This is going to be a fun game to watch. But I think Atlanta's offense is just going to be too much. I got Atlanta in this one.
All 3 of us have a loss that week. All right, week 4 at Minnesota. Now, Minnesota is a team that they were the hot story at the beginning of the year last year. Man, they were rolling. People started around week 4, week 5 started talking about this is possibly being a Super Bowl team. Obviously, things fell apart. Teddy Bridgewater still out. He's starting the season on the PUP list. Looks like they're rolling with Sam Bradford. I think Sam Bradford's the guy who's going to be never was, really, man. So much potential coming out of Oklahoma, but I never really came to the light, man. And I think Minnesota's a team that's going to be okay. The defense is going to be solid, and then I'm excited about Delvin Cook. I think he's going to be a good running back in this league. They also signed Latavius Murray out of Oakland, after letting go of Adrian Peterson. You got some strong wide receivers. The offense, they'll be able to put up points, but I think Detroit goes into Minnesota and gets the win.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a win, too. Their first win of the season. And I just think Sam Bradford sucks, to put it straight and simple. I just don't think their offense is good. Their defense is going to be real good. That'll be a little tough for the Lions, but I think we'll squeak it out.
Yeah, this game, I got this as a win for the Lions. Last year, if you guys remember, the Lions at Minnesota, this was one of the best games of the year. Yeah. Not just for the Lions, but in terms of the NFL and in total. Well, the Lions were down by 3, I think like 27 seconds to go, had the ball at their own 25, and they found a way to get Prater in position for a field goal. He made it, went into overtime. Lions got the ball first, and then Golden Tate had that flip into the end zone for the game winner. One of my favorite games, in Lions history, to be honest with it, which isn't saying a whole lot in terms of Lions history, but I think we could get something similar, another defensive battle. I think the Lions will pull this one out in the end. I think I'll say it again. Prater gets a game-winning field goal towards the end of the game, and the Lions take this one.
All right, next up, the Carolina Panthers. 2 years removed from a heck of a season. Last year, not so great. I think that had a lot to do with Cam Newton just being injured and beat up, and the team just Just not playing great, man. Carolina did not live up to expectations last year at all. I don't think they're going to be that much improved from what they were last year. I think the Lions get the win against the Panthers at home.
I have it as a loss. I just think they're just too good of a team altogether. They have a real solid defense. I think Cam Newton and them put it together a little more this year than last year. And I'm going to have to give the Lions another loss, which sucks because I don't like to do this, but it's just my opinion.
I got a win here for the Lions. Moves them to 3-2. Cam Newton did struggle last year. I think like Tom said, just getting beat up. Him running around and all these different running plays with Cam Newton, I think it's starting to take a toll a little bit. Even with his big body, he is able to take more hits than the average quarterback, but it is starting to wear on him, I think. They might have to cut back on that a little bit. But I do think the Lions take this one, and I got them at 3-2 now.
All right, next up at New Orleans. The Lions obviously had a playoff game at New Orleans a few years back, and things did not go well, but went to New Orleans recently and put on a show. Came out with a big win. They're back at New Orleans again. And but New Orleans, they're good. I mean, they're always going to be good. They're right there. When you got Drew Brees and you got that, you got fast receivers, solid running backs. You got Mark Ingram, and it's going to be real interesting to see what Adrian Peterson can do in New Orleans. Does Adrian Peterson have anything left in the tank at all? He's obviously not the star of the show. Mark Ingram is over there, but that'll be interesting. They lost Brandon Cooks to New England, but they got a star in Michael Thomas. You got guys that can play that offense. They're going to put up points. They're going to score. Can the Lions go in there and keep pace? I don't think so. I put that one as a loss.
Michael Thomas, second year, feel a little slump kicking in. Also, Adrian Peterson, I think, is done. New Orleans is pretty much a team just like the Lions. They're both similar teams, I believe. I say the Lions go down there and get a win over Drew Brees. To me, Drew Brees is getting a little up there. And I know he had a great year last year, but I see a little down turn for Drew Brees this year. Lions win.
Yeah, this game was the only game that the Lions won last year where they didn't have to come back from behind in the fourth quarter. This was more of a dominating effort, a true win for them last year, and I think they do it again. I think they go into New Orleans and get the win. I think Drew Brees is going to start dropping off a little bit. Mark Ingram's a nice back. I don't think Adrian Peterson has really anything left. I think the Lions go in there and win this one just like they did last year. I got them at 4-2 now.
All right, Pittsburgh coming into Detroit. It's slated for Sunday Night Football. This is going to be two teams that both have winning records, I believe, and it's going to be a showdown, and it's going to be a huge middle of the NFL season, right smack in the middle of the season. It's going to be a huge game in the city of Detroit. People are going to be on fire for this one, and it's going to be a slugfest. And I think the Lions are going to win this one. I think Detroit gets a day where they get to celebrate a huge, important, exciting home national TV win. This is probably the homer in me for sure. But this is the one on the schedule that I'm really looking forward to in the first half of the season, because if the Lions do what they're supposed to do and they just have a winning record going into this one, and the place is going to be, Ford Field is going to be electric. Like, it's going to be the toughest ticket in town. People are going to be so excited. Everybody's going to want to be there. Everybody who's not there is going to be gathered around their friends at their local bar, or like got in their man cave with 20 people. Like, people are going to be jacked up for this like it's damn near a playoff game. As long as there's any type of positivity in this season. You guys know what I'm saying? Like, this can be really, really huge, and I think it's gonna be. And I think the Lions tough it out, and they get a huge, huge mid-season win.
I really hope I was that confident about that Pittsburgh game as well. I think Pittsburgh, Bell, Roethlisberger, they got a couple good guys over there. And I just don't think
Antonio Brown,
Bryant.
They are loaded.
They got a lot of
loaded on offense, talent. Loaded on defense.
They actually they improved their defense a lot.
They just got a dude from Cleveland who got cut. The cornerback,
I can't
Joe
remember.
Hayden.
Yep.
Yeah, just swooped him right up.
Yeah, they've been improving their defense a lot this year, and I actually think they're going to be. They have a chance to win the Super Bowl, Pittsburgh. So
every year these guys.
I know.
But it is like it's not a cliche. It's the truth, man. Pittsburgh, they're winning in Pittsburgh. The way it's those teams, man. It's those legacies, and that's why I think this game can be so huge for the Lions. Mm-hmm. Because if you can beat Pittsburgh at home on Sunday night, and you're in the thick of the playoff chase halfway through the season. Like, this is the quintessential game, and that leads into. I didn't even let you pick yet. So.
Oh, I get to pick? Oh,
I picked out Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah, Joe's got Pittsburgh. Damn, who do you got? Because this one's leading into Green Bay. So.
Well, this is the last game before the bye week. I just think Pittsburgh's going to be too physical and too good, and it comes down. We talked about earlier with injuries. The Steelers can never seem to put Roethlisberger, Bell, and Antonio Brown on the field at the same time. When those three guys are together, that offense is, I will say, the best offense in the NFL. So if they come into Ford Field with those three guys on the field, I don't see the Lions being able to stop them. And it comes down to health, and it comes down with those guys on the field. I think they will be, and I think the Steelers take this one. I got the Lions at 4-3 going into the bye.
All right.
I only have 2 wins. It's a tough first.
It's very tough. The first 8 games are very tough.
Very tough.
I got the Lions at 5-2.
I got 2-5.
I know. Well, I'm a Kool-Aid drinker.
No, I know you are. I've known you a while.
Kool-Aid drinker.
In our old show, I remember I used to rip on you.
But we're going into the bye week 5-2, which if we do beat Pittsburgh, even if we have a decent showing against Pittsburgh and our record is still decent and we're still chasing playoffs, have a whole bye week to go into what I believe is it's Monday night.
Yep.
So we're going from Sunday night football, national TV, bye week, Monday night football at Lambeau against Green Bay. And I got us at 5-2, which means this is going to be a very huge game too. On Monday night, this will be the second Monday night, the third primetime game. And I just hope the Lions at this point have made a good showing and have not embarrassed themselves as they've been prone to do on national TV. And we go in here into Green Bay, put on a show, put on a great game. But I think we ultimately lose this one. I'm not that much of a Kool-Aid drinker. I do understand we're going to lose some games. And Green Bay, Monday night at Lambeau, mid-season form, Aaron Rodgers. I think this one will probably be a little too much for the Lions. I'm going to take the L in Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you, Tom. Aaron Rodgers, do I need to say more? Aaron Rodgers. I do think Green Bay is not going to be as good this year. I think their offensive line is kind of depleted a little bit. Their defense isn't that great. So I do see Green Bay not being as good as they were, falling off a little bit. But Stafford outside, I just don't like, especially against Green Bay. So I'm going to have to give us another loss there.
What do you got us at now, man?
He's the opposite.
You do not have high hopes this year, do you?
No. Sorry.
What
I have them at 2-6.
So are we gonna? Do we got the number 1 draft pick next year? Is that where you're at with us?
No, we go on a little streak later.
Schedule gets
it gets a lot easier at the end.
But it's a big game against Green Bay, against Aaron Rodgers. Lions lose. It's just the way it is.
Right.
I think Green Bay wins this one. They take they win it at Lambeau. It'll be a big game. We'll be excited for it, but Green Bay will be too much. They'll take it in the end. I got the Lions at 4-4 right now, 500, which is where you want to be. If you're looking at this first 8 games, if they can be 500 out of it,
and
I'll
listen,
be happy with
because
that.
I'm going to make this quick for me.
Yeah, 500
I got the next Cleveland, home against Cleveland, at Chicago, home against Minnesota on Thanksgiving. I got 3 straight wins. Do you guys see anything different on that schedule?
Well, I think Cleveland has a really good offensive line and a defense. No, I'm just joking. I'm giving Lions.
Hey, they got Jabril Peppers. That changes everything.
Hey, Cleveland is getting better, man. They are. I mean,
no, I agree with you. I do see 3 wins the next 3 games.
I agree.
Chicago sucks.
That's what I thought.
Minnesota sucks. Cleveland sucks.
Minnesota,
well, they don't suck.
Thanksgiving,
Minnesota doesn't suck.
Minnesota doesn't suck,
No, you're
but
right.
I mean, we got it. Like there's something special about Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
and I think there'll be something special about the team at this point because they'll still be in contention, and we're gonna win. We're gonna beat Cleveland at home. We're gonna beat Chicago on the road, and we're gonna beat Minnesota. So that I got 3 straight wins. Joe, I think you got 3 straight wins.
Yeah, I do.
Then,
Yep,
so
I got.
all right, so. That's it. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That gives me 8 wins.
I got 5 wins now.
At that point, against 1, 2, 3, the 8. I got us 8-3 going at Baltimore.
I got them 7-4.
And Joe, what do you got them?
I got 5 and what's the math there? 6.
5-6, yeah.
5 and 6. At Baltimore, that's why Baltimore, I think, is a team that's right. Joe Flacco, I mean, he's getting up there. That's not a team that you look to be great. I wouldn't pick them to win the Super Bowl, but Baltimore, they got a pedigree too, man. They're a team that's always going to be in the thick of things, especially at that time. We're getting into late October, early November at this point of the season, and I think Baltimore's going to be right there. They're going to be real tough to beat at home, and I got the Lions taking a loss at Baltimore.
I have an opposite. I think they have running back issues. Like you said, Flacco is not as good as he used to be, and also their defense I don't think as good as they used to be. They are in a tough division.
There's a lot of the historic Baltimore defense. You just kind of symbolize Baltimore with being good at.
Well, 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
they're not as good as they used to be. So I see the Lions going down there and getting a victory. So I'm giving them a win.
Despite that, yeah, the defense isn't as good as it used to be, but it's still a pretty solid defense. And you got John Harbaugh there. He's always going to have that team ready to go, ready to compete. And going on the road in Baltimore, it's going to be a tough place to win. I think the Lions lose this one.
It's going to be outside. It's going to be cold.
Yeah, it's going to be at that time of the year. Yep, it's going to start getting colder. And Stafford doesn't do well outside in the cold. He just doesn't. So I'm going to take Baltimore in this one. I got them at 7-5 now.
And then you got... It's never good to have to go back-to-back road games. And after Baltimore, you got Tampa Bay, one of the up-and-coming teams in this NFC. You got experts out there picking Tampa Bay to possibly be the representative down there in the NFC South, taking over Atlanta and taking over New Orleans. This is the team that has a lot of offensive firepower. They got a solid defense. You got a quarterback in Jameis Winston who is starting to come into his own and possibly being one of the elite quarterbacks in the next few years. And you got Mike Evans. You got
Jackson now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Deshaun Jackson, who's always a threat. I mean, getting up there in years, but he's still fast.
Number
he's
two.
still a threat.
Good number 2.
You got some talent down there, and you have a team that it's going to be right there in the thick of things. And this is going to be another one of those games. If my predictions hold up and the Lions hold strong, I think this could be a very pivotal game as far as wild cards, as far as division titles. Because these are two teams that I think will be right there in the mix for both of their division titles, let alone competing at the wild card level. And but down in Tampa Bay, second row, I think the Lions have a little lull here, and they get 2 losses in a row, 2 road losses. Matt Stafford, his road record is, especially on the road against playoff teams. I think. Obviously, it's not all Matt Stafford, but I think things don't go our way on this one. I think we lose 2 games in a row, 2 big games in a row, and Lions fans start to get real nervous down the stretch.
I am one of those believers of Tampa Bay. I do think they're going to be. I think they're a playoff team for sure. I'm not going to say they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything, but I just think they're a young, talented team, and I do think they're going to take the next step this year, especially Winston and Evans. So I have the Lions going down there and losing.
I think this is going to be a huge game, especially in terms of playoff positioning. I think this is going to be a game that's going to determine who takes a wild card. I've seen a lot of publications say that kind of Tampa Bay is going to be that team that kind of takes the Lions spot as kind of that 6th seed in the wild card. And I think Tampa Bay does take it. I think they beat the Lions here at home and take that win from the Lions and really kind of put the Lions behind the 8 ball. Now I got them at 7-6.
And then come back home after a 2-week stretch of some tough opponents. We get Chicago, who I think at this point is going to be completely decimated. Probably be somewhere around 2 wins and just be a complete disaster. I think Chicago is bad, and they're going to continue to be bad. And they're going to come just limping into Ford Field, and they're going to face a pissed off, frustrated Lions team who still has a whole heck of a lot to play for. And I think the Lions murder Chicago.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you. Pretty much everything you said. By then, they will be depleted. They're not deep at all. So Lions go in there. Or actually, no, they're coming here. And Lions win.
Yeah, this is an absolute must-win for the Lions. I agree with Tom. I think Chicago's going to be kind of limping in here. It'd be interesting to see what Mitch Trubisky can do. He'll definitely be playing by here. To see what he can do, but it probably won't be too much. I think the Lions take this one in an absolute must-win, and they go to 8-6.
All right, I got Lions at 9-5, going on the road at Cincinnati, and this is another team that's got pedigree. They're not a Super Bowl type team, but they're a team that's always in the mix, always like right in the middle of those great AFC battles. Man, they'll be fighting for playoff contention, possibly fighting for a division title down there in that treacherous division with Pittsburgh and Baltimore, man. And we're at Cincinnati. It's going to be a rabid place to go. Fontes Burfict is going to be looking to murder somebody. Hopefully he's like out of the league by then. Probably will be.
Yeah, he will be.
But that's a ferocious defense, and you got. We're probably going to see the best of Joe Mixon at this point. I think that at this point, Joe Mixon is going to have all the controversy behind him that was leading up to his season with the draft. Andy Dalton, he's got weapons out there, man. He's got weapons. With AJ Green, and I think Cincinnati's going to be right in the thick of things in the AFC, and this is going to be a real showdown. I got a close game. I think the Lions are going to come out and compete. It's going to be outside. It's going to be cold. It's going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be hard-hitting. And I think the Cincinnati just gets by a little bit, and I think the Lions take a loss on the road in Cincinnati.
I think A.J. Green will be injured by then, so they'll have their best playmaker gone. I disagree with you about Joe Mixon. Running backs don't hold up.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Huh? Yeah, I know. There's like one every 2 years. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think he's that player.
Also, the NFL's a young man's game, especially running back.
It's getting there, yeah, for sure. I don't think their defense is as good as, past. And I think the Lions will go down there and win.
Think you got it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm giving them a win against Cincinnati.
It's probably going to be snowing. It's going to be cold as hell. It's probably going to be snowing.
No, you're right. It might be. It's going to be cold.
Who do you think who leads the charge that game? Do you think is Matthew Stafford going to...
I don't think Matthew Stafford...
You think it's going to be a running game, like a ground and pound type deal? Or?
I don't know. I don't think it'll be a ground and pound. Do you think the Lions ever ground and pound the game?
Well, how do they get this win then?
If they're going to win, it's going to be Stafford. It has to be Stafford. They can't ground and pound. The Lions have never done that. I don't like Stafford outside in the cold. You're right. He's not good. But I give them a win. I think they're going to go down there. I just don't think Cincinnati is as good as you think they are. I don't think they're really that good at all, to tell you the truth. They're in a tough division. They play a lot of tough teams. I just don't think they're as good.
This is going to be a cold weather game. Like you said, it might be snowing. It might be bad weather. This is a game here where the new offensive line is going to have to come through and kind of take control and take over and win this game for the Lions. And I think they do. I think Decker's back by now. The offensive line is gelling by now. And I think they get rolling and they start running the ball. And Stafford's going to have to kind of dump the ball off down to Riddick and Abdullah. And they're going to have to make plays out of the backfield in the passing game because it's going to be tough to pass the ball down the field. And I think the Lions do that. And I think Cincinnati, they'll self-destruct. That's what they do. They'll get personal fouls. They'll get some stupid plays. Andy Dalton might throw a bad interception at a bad time. I think this is going to be a huge game between two teams that are going for the playoffs, must-wins for both teams. And I think this is going to be kind of I don't want to say a franchise-changing game, but kind of a building game where you see, okay, maybe the Lions are turning the corner, and they show that professionalism and being clutch in key plays. And I think they win this game. It's a huge win, and they go to 9-6.
I have them at 8-7 right now. Heading into the last and final game. What do you have, Matt Tom?
I got 9 wins. And what? 1, 2.
Put them at 9-6.
9-6. Going in.
At least we're not going to Green Bay.
Seems like freaking Groundhog Day with this right now. It always is. The NFL. Are they just screwing with us, or
we've always played them?
Or are they just setting us up for like the most satisfying win in regular season history?
Wood, he fought for this. He fought for the Lions to have home games as the last game because he went to the higher ups in the NFL and said, "Hey, look at our schedule. Like the last 5 or 6 years, we've ended the season on the road."
Against Green
Bay, do you think he can help us out? I mean, maybe take a look at this. And now you look at it. Now this will be the second year in a row they're going to have the last game at home.
But it's Green Bay.
It's Green Bay.
It's the arch nemesis, the kryptonite, the big brother, the Boston Celtics to the bad boys. And I think this is the year where we get in there and we get over that mountain. Man, I do. And this is the biggest homer persona of me coming out, because I do it I'm completely blinded by all the rosters and stats and numbers. I'm just saying that whatever this is the year. This is the year. It sets up perfectly. The team is ready. The team is right. This is the year where we have the showdown, and I think everything's gonna be tied. Everything's gonna be so freaking close, and everything's gonna lead up to this game. The Lions will win the division against the Packers at home, and this team gets to celebrate And we're not going into playoffs and Super Bowl prediction, nothing like that. But I'm telling you right now, right here, I'm telling you that the Lions will beat the Packers at Ford Field Week 17 to win the division, and it's going to be freaking awesome.
I went back and forth on this last game because I have them at, 8 and 7. So this game's either going to put them at 500 or 9 and 7. So I really looked at it, and I think that Green Bay's line will be depleted by then. I think we'll be able to tee off on Aaron Rodgers, put a lot of pressure on him, and I'm going to give the Lions a win at home against Green Bay, and it'll make them 9 and 7. Now, I don't know if that'll make them in the playoffs or not. I think they're going to be right at that bubble and have a chance to make the playoffs, just limp in, or just be right at 8 and 8. So I'm going to give them a win against Green Bay and make them 9 and 7, and then possibly make the playoffs.
Well, we're back at it again, like you said, Tom. It's the same exact situation that we had last year, and I think that's what it comes down to. I think it comes down to this game. I think it gets flexed to Sunday Night Football just like it did last year. It's national television. It's the last game of the season. It's going to decide the division, and I think it's going to be kind of a winner-take-all. The winner gets into the playoffs as a division champion, gets a home playoff game. The loser, I think, will be out, because I think Tampa Bay will kind of be in there to take that wild card spot. At the end of the day, it's Aaron Rodgers. And until they prove that they can beat him in a big game, I can't sit here and pick the Lions to beat him.
TJ Lang is going to tell Matt Stafford and tell that team, he's going to tell him the magic tricks, man.
The magic tricks?
The magic tricks,
Does TJ Lang take all the curses away from the Lions? I
watched TJ Lang becomes the greatest, most celebrated athlete in Detroit sports history.
I watched Aaron. The Lions had
That's a complete homer right there.
The Lions, was it 2 years ago? The Lions had an absolute sure win. Absolute. That game was over. You get some type of fluke penalty that puts Aaron Rodgers in position to throw a 70-yard Hail Mary. Almost hits the freaking ceiling with the ball.
We were looking for a back and forth kind of thing.
Yeah.
God, that play won me $150 on DraftKings. Because I had Rodgers and Rodgers.
Gee, really?
So I was so mad, but then so happy at the same time.
Oh, man.
I mean, you've seen it all. Like, something is going to happen, even if the Lions are the better team on the field, which they may be. Something stupid, something ridiculous, something miraculous is going to happen for the Packers to beat the Lions.
Won the World Series, man. It's the Lions' turn now, dude. It's the Lions' turn. Things are going to go our way this year, man.
Do we have any audio clips of I Know You? Because I feel he said the same thing.
Wait, what?
I said, do we have any audio clips from OU? Oakland University radio station.
Yeah.
I feel like you said the same thing.
Live at the Clubhouse Lounge.
Yeah, I feel like you said the exact same thing.
I used to. I've been saying this stuff for years.
I thought you changed.
No, but
I'm just messing with you.
No, dude, I'm telling you, things are different. It's time, man. The Lions going 10-6. We're going to win the NFC North, and we're going to win a home playoff game.
See, for how bad I had them, I only had them 9 and 7. I just feel like that.
We both got them 9 and 7.
Yeah, I feel like that.
I got them 9 and 7. I think they lose out on the playoffs because of that Tampa Bay loss. I think that'll end up being the difference between them making the playoffs or not. Tampa Bay will get the tiebreaker and take that last wild card. So that's where I got them. I got them missing the playoffs at 9 and 7, unfortunately. But I think it all comes down to that Green Bay game at home.
Well, there you have it, folks. That is the Lions season predictions given to you by us at the Detroit Sports Sit Down.
It's weird how we all got the same place differently because you got them 10 and 6, right?
I got them 10 and 6.
Yeah, so like after your sweet start, I thought it's just weird how we all kind of ended the same way. We just got there differently.
I know it's great though, but football season is here, ladies and gentlemen. But for this week, that's going to be the end of it. The Detroit Sports Sit Down. That's what you've been listening to, and I really do hope you enjoyed it. Listen, y'all. If you ever want to get a hold of us, we're out here. We're on Twitter at Det Sports ENT. That's DETSPORTSENT. That's for Twitter. We're on Facebook. You can find us, Detroit Sports and Entertainment. We're all over the place. We're always posting. We're talking. You're talking. We're getting at each other. It's a lot of fun. These podcasts, you can find them on Podbean. All you gotta do is look for DetroitSportsSitDown.podbean.com. You can get this podcast just sent directly to your phone and your computer by going on to iTunes. All you gotta do is search the Detroit Sports Sit Down. We're on the World Wide Web at DetroitSportsAndEntertainment.com. And if you want to get at us through email, we're at DetroitSportsSitDown@gmail.com. There's a lot to look forward to because college football is coming, man. Football is coming, baby, and we're going to be talking about it. So get with us, get at us. And what we're going to do now is leave you with some of the greatest sports moments in Detroit history. Have a good night, y'all.